Todd Bowley, although he stepped down from this sporting director role, he is still around. They've hired one or two others as well. They've got probably 5 or 6 who are doing these negotiations. So there are a lot of voices in that club at the moment and I think that is leading to a little bit of a scattergun approach in the market. I think that's why you see suddenly Chelsea coming in for, I've seen a report tonight, I don't know how much truth there is in it, Leandro Trossard from Brighton. That's a new name, but it just would be added to a very long list. And I mean, how many forwards can they really sign? And even again, going back to Graham Potter, I think it's indicative that even he is saying, look, when everybody's fit, we've now got about 30 players on the books. This is just unsustainable. And I think what's definitely going to happen in the summer is there will be a proper fire sale at Chelsea. I think they're going to be quite aggressive in moving players out. They're going to have to be, really, because they are trying to sign a new squad, a young squad, a very expensive squad in a very short space of time, and they're going to have to move out a lot of players because there's going to be just a lot of them who may, as it stands, not even be registered for the second half of the season, but certainly will not have a future beyond the summer.
How much patience do they have with Potter, James?
Well, they are quite adamant that they want to change the culture, the habitual player power culture at Chelsea, which was so prevalent under Roman Abramovich. And we saw it time and again with managers, even how successful they were. Jose Mourinho wasn't exempt from it, that eventually the players got tired of it. They downed tools. They sort of circumvented whoever the coach was at the time and went straight to the owner, and the manager was the guy who made way. And they're trying to change that. They are adamant that they want Graham Potter to be their man on a long-term deal. He's obviously signed a long-term contract himself. They're signing players to 6, 7, 8.5-year contracts in some cases, in Mudryk's contracts. That obviously is something to do with financial fair play, so they can stretch the payments out over a longer period of time. But they want Graham Potter to be the mainstay and to really, with this core of young players, be there for the long term. The problem, of course, is that he's going to have to get results in between now and the summer. And really, if they're languishing in 10th place for another 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, you do. It's all well and good having a long-term plan, but there comes a point where you have to win football matches. And at the moment, they don't look like doing that on a consistent basis. And that is a concern for him. But as it stands, they want him to be there for the long term.
It's a point that Frank has brought up, James, in the sense that this season's done for Chelsea. What are they going to achieve? So what is a successful season between now and the end of the season from Potter?
Well, it's 4th, isn't it? I mean, obviously they're not going to win the league. 4th looks quite distant at the moment. Yeah. But, if they went on a run, you would say that this isn't a season where you would say that 1 or 2 sides are going to run away with it and be sort of, you're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6 sides scrambling for that 4th place. I think it's 10 points is it the gap at the moment. Yeah, so that's not insurmountable. We are obviously not as far into the season as we normally would be in mid-January because of the World Cup. So there is still time. I think it's easy to think we're getting carried away and maybe the gap is too big at this point. But it has to be 4th, or at the very least it has to be Europa League football, because although I don't want to labour the point about financial fair play, and if you speak to people at the club, they say they still have some headroom there. The fact is that they're structuring their deals over 7, 8 years because they need to stretch those payments out over a long period of time. They've spent an awful lot of money, 400 million quid you're talking about over the last sort of 2 or 3 windows. And that is obviously an unsustainable amount that puts you on UEFA's watch list. It puts you potentially in breach of financial fair play. And if you lose the revenue from the Champions League, and if you use revenue, which is obviously reduced for the Europa League as well, that is going to really put a constraint on them in terms of what they can do in the summer and, of course, their wage bill.
Last thing on Chelsea, James, I promise. Any more signings between now and the end of the transfer window?
Well, they did bid for Noni Madueke at PSV. They've obviously also had that bid rejected, or multiple bids rejected, for Enzo Fernandez at Benfica. So I think they are still looking to be active, but there does come a point where you're going to have to stop signing players and start selling a few. And I think what they do between now and the end of the window may depend on how many they can get out. They're going to have to get out at least 1 or 2 if they're going to bring in any more, particularly for big money.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.